So it's another hot dog thing again? Yeah, I mean, what would you expect?
Greetings! Welcome to the first full-length featurette for Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades 2. Oh, that feels weird to say. I'm sure a bunch of you are still reeling from the announcement earlier today. Today's featurette is going to be about the game as a whole, and instead of, restating everything that was in the sort of short, compressed featurette, I'm going to do things, in greater depth, a little more freeform. I've got my notes here, but I'm going to try to do things a bit more loose and off the cuff today. So we're going to start with the scope of H3VR2 as a game, its various modes. I'm going to talk a bit about why we're doing a sequel at all, especially a funded one. I'm going to talk a bit about how the core H3 experience has gotten a wild upgrade in this sequel. And then I'm going to do a bunch of rapid fire questions and answers that I'm sure a whole bunch of you have. So what's H3VR2 about? The core of it is a tactical extraction roguelike called Facility. In it, you take on the role of the handy, part field engineer, part tactical operator, and the only SOSIG with hands. If you've played H3VR1, think of it like a distillation of all of the things that worked best from like a decade of our experimentation, our various game modes, our prototypes that never quite got to fruition, smushed together and scaled in a way that's only possible with a significant size team. The mode is built on a procedural generation system, so each run that you do is going to be unique. It's not totally unstructured randomness. No, there's a campaign. It's been hand designed. Think of it like you're moving down through a layer of biomes, deeper and deeper into this facility. So the path downward is authored, it's bespoke, but each bit of that journey is unique each time. That is, unless you choose to do a daily run or turn on tournament mode for a given level where a fixed seed is used. In those cases, the specific sort of random configuration is repeatable and can be consistent between players so that you can actually compete on high scoreboards. Now, I know from building Taken Hold in H3 that there's a wide range of ways that folks have enjoyed playing H3 over the years. On one end of the axis, you have the really competitive folks, and you have the folks that love all of the like really deep simulatory stuff. They like managing individual mags and how much ammo they have, playing it in a very hardcore fashion. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have folks who just want to like spawn lock a drum magazine, flip it onto full auto and just hip fire their way action style through the mode in a more sort of like high intensity arcadey kind of fashion. We're trying to accommodate that entire range here as well. So in addition to playing Facility as a persistent loot extraction game, you can also play all of the levels that you're going to unlock over time as one-offs in a more arcade style. Progression in H3VR2 is unified, meaning that all of the different ways that you play, engaging with all of its different modes, all of those things will net you experience, will cause you to level up, will unlock the various unlockables in the game, which includes access to further levels. So this way, there's multiple paths through the game. So if you're the sort of person who mainly wants to hang out in sandboxes and do challenges and occasionally do like an arcade run of Facility, you will still progress through our entire progression curve, unlock everything cool there is to unlock, etc. New to the H3 experience with this sequel is a mode called the Certification Range. It's a learning space with fully voiced step-by-step tutorials, both for the game's core concepts and each different type of gun. Because of this is, this is a game that is built for the constraint of standalone, we understand that you're not going to have like multiple browser tabs open at the same time while you're playing. And so it's important that the game is actually teaching you all of the information that you need in terms of how to operate things, as well as having a sort of index of information of, glossary of terms, concepts. What does FMJ ammo mean? We endeavor to put all of those things actually in the game this time around. We're also doing a challenges range, something along the line of meets in H3, except with the challenges structured a little bit more specifically designed to different categories of weapon systems, as well as having stuff that goes beyond just static target shooting. Room clearing exercises, climbing stuff, even scored challenges involving SOSIGs are all within the bounds of what we're playing with for this mode. And of course, the sandbox stuff is still there. New to the game, though, is an expanded notion of what the item spawner in H3, which is omnipresent across the game, can be. In H3VR2, this takes the form of Vendo, the item vending robot, your friendly and helpful companion that will be both for the sort of utilitarian functions that you get out of the item spawner, spawning objects, saving configurations, loading them, saving ranges, but we'll also have a whole bunch of access to like item glossaries and things like that. Maybe some mini games and some other stuff that I'm not quite ready to show. And in addition to that, Vendo, when Vendo shows up in a facility run, he's actually part of this resource and object economy of that mode. So yeah, those are the sort of four pillars of H3VR2. We have the facility game mode and all of the different mutable ways they can be played. There's a certification range where you're going to be able to learn how to do everything. There's the challenges range where you'll put that into practice, compete on high scoreboards, especially if you love the more classic arcade or light gun style gameplay. And then sandboxes, lots and lots of sandboxes. So with that out of the way, why a sequel? Why a funded sequel? Why standalone? I'm sure a bunch of you are surprised that this is a big course change from what I've expressed interest in doing in the past. I think the easiest, pithy way to sum this all up is that the VR market in 2026 is very different than what it was in 2016. There's one major entity putting effort, resources, and funding assistance into VR, and that's Meta. And if you ask where are the customers are dominantly on standalone. The situations that allowed us as a group to just very, very low budget, successfully, slowly build out and grind out an open dev PC VR game over many years don't exist anymore. So to keep doing VR, we decided to aim at the market that is still significant and go big or go home with it. We got tapped for a pitch, and a very, very long pitching process went on, ended up going surprisingly well. We sold them on our vision. We scaled our team over the past year and a half to what is now basically 20 people who are working on the game, which is wild to experience for me in ways I cannot possibly, communicate. And the result is that we've been able to build something that many folks, including past versions of myself, would have looked at and been like, there's no way that could be possible on standalone. But it has turned out to be so. So what have we managed to build? Well, obviously, we have to start with the guns. H3VR2 systems are a ground up rewrite. Nothing has been ported over here other than a decade of design knowledge we have put together. The most obvious thing to see first is that we have hands. So all the interactions are built around having hands. We have a crazy complex pose blending system. Ole, our chief virtual armor, has taken this way too far. For the 1911 pistol, for example, there's over 40 hand poses for it. Every control you're manipulating on the gun, mag release, safety, slide, stop, the hand actually visually operates that control correctly. This is even asymmetric, as you hit various controls differently on a pistol, whether you're holding it in your right hand or holding it in your left hand. And on certain pistols, certain controls may not even be easily accessible when dominantly holding it in one given hand. It's been gross to implement, but the results, I don't know, give a sense of presence for actually holding the thing in your hand in a way that I don't think is present in any other game. When it comes to the internal firearm simulation, we have also gone way, way too far. To illustrate, cartridges have defined masses for the casing, powder, and projectile separately. We have pressure curves for the powder type for that given round so that we can compute impulses on moving parts of the guns. That means the relative recoil of each gun is both data driven and correct relative to other guns. Our ballistic system is even more detailed both in flight and terminal events. It's all written in an ECS system, which the like layman's explanation for what that is we did it the much harder way that allows us to have way more projectiles simultaneously. If you enjoy setting up like groups of targets and various objects and just doing like comparative, like, oh, I'm going to put 5 of these in a row and see what this round does against this versus this round, the systems that we have in place for the sequel here make H3's ballistic system look primitive by comparison. And when it comes to sound, we have been going for absolute broke. Joe, our longtime audio partner who runs Madwave Audio, has been on a 1.5-year recording and research journey with me on putting together the most authentic and complete firearm-like operation sound library I think anyone has ever bothered to put together. If you'll excuse me dropping a little shade for a moment, firearm foley, like as a discipline, is still like really stuck in film industry thinking still. Even the best, most expensive, like licensable packs that you can find out in the wild are at best. So we've been making everything from scratch we possibly can, getting access to every type of firearm we can, and have done it to the degree that we now have a backlog of recorded firearm audio that is going to probably take years to get through implementing. It's an example of like there's several areas of production because of the way that we parallelize things where certain teams or certain types of content production have just outrun the rest of where the game is to an exciting degree. Going beyond the guns, almost everything about our chief combat agents, the SOSIGs, have gotten a huge upgrade. They're smoothly skinned instead of like 4 rigid, shapes jointed to each other kind of crudely. They have real-time damage decaling and deformation, blowing them into mustardy chunks way more satisfying and juicy. And aside, don't worry, SOSIGs cannot die. They do not mind it when you blow them up. Just thought you should know that. What's amazing is because they've been built by Zach, who is a real technical artist, Zach, the creator of Vertigo 2, despite them being more advanced than H3 SOSIGs in every way, they're actually more performant and we can have more of them existing at once, which is just ridiculous. And then there's the procedural generation system for the levels. I'll be going into this in much more detail in a future featurette when I want to tease more of our level content. But I can't overstate how much it's like a dream come true to be able to have this. All of H3's levels are completely static in their layout, and part of that is because I have always privileged their aesthetics to a certain degree. I'm a light mapping sicko. I'm an environment artist originally. The levels have got to like have pretty lighting. That's the thing I need. And so Zach has managed to assemble a system here that allows us to combine these hand-authored, traditionally light mapped rooms and a modular hallway sets and a system that can basically merge all of that lighting together with some real-time light mapping. And what it means is we can actually have dynamic procedural layouts of levels, but they still have the same sort of lush lighting as if I had just built that level completely static, which is ridiculous. So, and it means that I get to have what I've always wanted, which is to have H3's combat with an unlimited novel configuration of battle spaces, which is like, come on. So I could keep going, but there's a whole bunch of stuff I'd rather save for future featurettes. We've got a bunch of months between now and our eventual release. I've got plenty to tease for you along the way. So with that, let's dive into our rapid fire Q&A. Is the new game going to be in early access for a decade? No, this time around, instead of launching like 7 weeks into production, we've been working on the game for over 2 years. We are releasing in a significantly more coherent state this time. When will we get to play the new game? How much will it cost? We'll announce that when we're ready to. We're still working on figuring that out. I thought you hated hands. Why are there hands in the game? So, the primary reasons that I have disliked hands and have not ever wanted to put them in H3 falls into two categories. The first of which is that I've always privileged detail of interaction, especially with very small objects. And with most VR controllers having bulky tracking rings on them, in a sense, there was no way to hold small objects where they would be, especially when having to interact hand to hand without, slamming your controllers together. Well, controllers without rings on them now, and they're awesome. So we can do that. Also, we have a large team, which means we actually have the resources to do utterly insane things like build 45 poses for one pistol. Will this game be a Quest exclusive? No, it will not. I'm happy to say there were no exclusivity requirements in our deal. We're building for Quest first because it's the most challenging platform to build for, and we've never built for a console before. I've just been a goblin Steam developer this whole time. Just push live. We have to go through a cert now. Ugh. But that's not the extent of our plans for the game. You all know me, like, despite my cynicism, I'm like PCVR's oldest champion, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that I have in mind that will only make sense to live in the PCVR version of this game because of the amount of horsepower that is available. So don't worry. What's going on with H3VR1? So, in all candor, I had meant to have 1.0 of H3VR1 out by now. I had kind of wanted to have it ready at least by our 10th anniversary back at the beginning of April. But as a bunch of you know who have followed along with the devlogs and stuff, I have been put through the ringer a bit over the past year and a half. Got sick a couple times, got injured a couple times, had some family stuff. And so my entire schedule, especially juggling these two projects, has been trying, to say the least. And the last thing that we're really doing for H3 1.0 is user content tools, which you have one opportunity to get right. Because the moment you release those things, people start uploading things online, and you don't want to have to make changes that breaks all of that and wastes all of those people's time and engagement and energy and trust. And so we want to make sure it's perfect. So I'm not pushing it out faster than it needs to be. So we're still trucking along on 1.0 alongside development of H3VR2. And even past 1.0, I'm sure the process of having so many people suddenly authoring content for it will unearth all sorts of new bugs. Even our private testing group has already done this. And so I'm sure, and the Steam frame's coming out at some point, hopefully. And so I imagine H3.1 is going to require some tinkering for a while longer. Will you eventually backport weapons, systems, modes from H3VR2 to 1? No, just to get this out of the way so no one has any expectations of this, we are not. It's a new game. They're completely different games. There's no shared code between them. The assets are built in a different way, and we're investing our energy and our resources in the new title and having that content live only in the new title. Will there be any devlogs for H3VR2? Yes, we're going to do featurettes, just like this one. I haven't figured out yet what the frequency of them is going to be. They're probably going to be on a different day of the week than the H3 ones. Might be Wednesday, seeing as this one's on a Wednesday. That works as well as anything else. So there'll be more soon. Will the game have any humans, bipeds, multiplayer, PvP, or co-op? 100% no, it will not. Will this game support modding? Not at launch, but we have already put in a ton of time and effort in making sure that each one of the core game systems is set up for modding eventually. One of the members of our team is Nathan, who has built the most extensive H3 modding frameworks for the community. He has been here. One of his big roles in our engineering and design team at every step has been to look at a system we're making and being like, are we doing this in a way that is flexible enough for someone to eventually add content into this system? And he's going to be spearheading the architecture of our eventual modding API. I will note, though, that we're not trying to do that for launch. That's going to be something that comes after launch, in part because of the fact that that's that's one of those question mark how long that will take to do well. It's tool development, and because H32 is running on IL to CPP for performance, basically the way it's like compiled down. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can't do from a standard modding perspective when a game is built that way. So it's going to take more effort from us to make modding possible, which is just going to take more time. Will my favorite gun be in H3VR2? You are going to have to wait to find out. Why hot dogs? I mean, why not? So there you have it. That's your big picture into Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades 2. I hope you folks are at least a fraction as excited as I am. I cannot tell you what a relief it is to finally be able to talk about this project publicly. If you'd like to follow along with development, make sure to subscribe to this channel and to subscribe to all of the social accounts linked on h3vr2.com. I'm looking forward to showing you more in the months to come. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.